Welcome to a new podcast episode. In the previous episode, we discussed why demography and skills shortages have become a central economic factor. Today, we are taking an international perspective and comparing how different countries around the world deal with labor availability and access to talent. This is not about political judgment, but about how location-specific conditions influence investment and growth decisions. Has the skills shortage become a global phenomenon?
Yes, almost all major economies are affected. The differences are less about whether skills shortages exist and more about how countries deal with them. Demographic trends, migration, levels of automation, and cultural factors together determine how resilient a labor market is in the long term. For investors, the key question is how effectively a country manages these structural challenges.
Let's start with Germany.
Germany offers a highly skilled workforce, a strong industrial base, high legal and institutional stability. At the same time, clear bottlenecks are emerging. An aging population, high demand for skilled labor in IT, engineering, skilled trades, and healthcare, comparatively slow immigration and qualification recognition processes. For investors, this means high predictability, but an increased need for early workforce planning and automation strategies.
How does the situation look in the United States?
The U.S. benefits from a comparatively younger population, high labor market flexibility, and strong attractiveness for international talent. However, this is offset by significant wage disparities, intense competition for skilled workers, and political and regulatory volatility. From an investor's perspective, the U.S. offers strong momentum but lower long-term predictability.
What about the United Kingdom?
The U.K. has traditionally been open to international skilled labor, particularly in finance, technology, and services. Since Brexit, however, labor markets have tightened. Skill shortages in SMEs have intensified and costs have increased. The UK remains attractive for investors, especially in the services sector, while operational and labor-intensive industries face increasing pressure.
China is still often perceived as a location with vast labor potential. Is that still accurate?
That perception has changed significantly. China is aging rapidly, and its working-age population is already declining. The response has been a comprehensive automation strategy. Robotics, AI-driven manufacturing processes, and extensive industrial digitalization. For investors, this means high productivity, but also increased political and regulatory risk.
After China, it is worth looking at Russia.
Russia faces a sharply declining demographic outlook. This is compounded by a shrinking labor force and significant emigration of skilled professionals. Technical and entrepreneurial profiles are particularly affected. Automation can only partially offset these trends as technological capacity and international integration are limited. For investors, this results in a high level of structural risk.
How does South Korea compare?
South Korea has one of the lowest birth rates globally. The economic response has been very high levels of automation and extensive use of advanced technologies. At the same time, migration and labor market access remain limited, creating long-term pressure for companies operating there.
India is often described as a demographic winner. What are your thoughts?
India has a very young population and significant labor potential. However, decisive factors include substantial differences in education and skill levels, infrastructure constraints, and selective availability of highly qualified professionals. For investors, India is highly attractive in the long term, but in the short term, outcomes depend heavily on sector and location.
What is the key takeaway from this international comparison? And in particular, how should Germany be positioned in this environment? Will the country remain attractive in the coming years or not?
First of all, no location is demographically risk-free. All major economies face structural changes in their labor markets, whether due to aging, migration, or skills gaps. The differences lie in how effectively countries respond. How reliably can labor be secured? Or how quickly are skills developed or recognized? And how consistently is productivity increased through automation? For investors and companies, this means that location decisions should no longer be based solely on costs or tax rates, but on long-term labor viability. With regard to Germany, the assessment is clear. Germany remains an attractive location, but not automatically. Its strengths are evident. High qualification levels, a strong industrial base, legal certainty, and predictable framework conditions. At the same time, Germany is under pressure. from demographic aging, from skills shortages, and from slow processes in immigration and qualification recognition. In the coming years, Germany will be particularly attractive for companies that invest early in automation, upskilling, and efficient organizational structures. For investors, this means Germany is not a location for short-term scaling at any cost, but for long-term business models where stability, productivity, and predictability are key. In short, Germany is attractive for those who understand demography as a strategic challenge and act accordingly.
Thank you for this assessment, and thank you for listening. In the next episode, we will discuss concrete measures companies and investors can take to remain competitive under changing demographic conditions. The Haberlander GmbH is happy to support companies and investors as an advisor or speaker. Further information can be found at www.haberlander-gmbh.de.